What happens when Hollywood royalty meets real royalty and the gloves come off? Tonight, we're diving into one of the most explosive television moments in recent memory, where a routine late-night interview turned into an absolute battlefield. Meghan Markle walked onto Jimmy Kimmel's stage expecting a friendly chat, but what she got instead was a verbal sparring match that ended with security escorting her off the set. Make sure to subscribe and drop a comment below because this story has more twists than a pretzel factory. The studio audience was buzzing with anticipation as Jimmy Kimmel delivered his opening monologue with his trademark wit. The cameras were rolling, the lights were blazing, and everyone expected another typical celebrity interview. But from the moment Meghan Markle walked through those curtains, something felt different. Her smile seemed forced, her posture rigid, and there was an unmistakable tension crackling through the air like electricity before a thunderstorm. Well, Jimmy began with that familiar grin of his. Look who we have here tonight. The Duchess of Sussex herself, though I guess we're not supposed to call you that anymore, are we? The audience chuckled, but Meghan's smile faltered for just a split second, a crack in the perfect facade she'd carefully constructed. Actually, Jimmy, I think there might be some confusion about titles and what they mean, Meghan replied, her voice carrying a subtle edge that only those paying close attention would catch. But I'm happy to clear things up for you and your viewers. Jimmy leaned back in his chair, sensing something brewing beneath the surface. Oh, I love it when guests want to educate me. Please enlighten us all about the intricacies of royal protocol. I'm sure our audience is dying to know. The sarcasm in his voice was unmistakable, and Meghan's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. You know, Jimmy, I came here thinking we could have a genuine conversation about the work I'm doing, the causes I'm passionate about, and the positive changes I'm trying to make in the world. But it seems like you're more interested in perpetuating tabloid narratives. Tabloid narratives. Jimmy's eyebrows shot up in mock surprise. Is that what we're calling basic questions now? I thought journalism was about asking the tough questions, not softball interviews designed to rehabilitate someone's image. The audience started to shift uncomfortably in their seats. This wasn't the lighthearted banter they'd expected. Meghan's composure was beginning to crack and her media training seemed to be failing her in real time. You want tough questions, Jimmy? Let's talk about tough questions. How about we discuss why late-night television has become nothing more than a platform for cheap shots and gotcha moments? How about we talk about the responsibility that comes with having a platform and how some people abuse that responsibility? Jimmy's smile grew wider like a predator sensing weakness. Oh, I love this. We're getting a lecture about responsibility from someone who made a career out of playing victim on international television. Tell me when you were throwing your family under the bus for profit. Were you thinking about responsibility then? The words hit like a physical blow. Meghan's face flushed red and for a moment she looked genuinely stunned. The audience fell silent, the weight of Jimmy's accusation hanging in the air like smoke from a fired gun. Excuse me. Meghan's voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried the fury of a hurricane. Did you just accuse me of throwing my family under the bus for profit? Do you have any idea what I've been through? Do you have any concept of the racist abuse, the death threats, the complete destruction of my privacy and mental health? Oh, here we go, Jimmy said, rolling his eyes dramatically. The race card right on schedule. You know what I find fascinating? Every time someone asks you a legitimate question about your behavior, your choices, your actions, somehow it all comes back to racism. It's like a magic shield that deflects any criticism whatsoever. The studio was dead silent now. Even the camera operators seemed frozen, unsure whether they should keep filming or cut to commercial. This had gone far beyond uncomfortable television. It had entered dangerous territory. Meghan stood up from her chair, her entire body shaking with rage. A magic shield. You think racism is a magic shield? You think the documented harassment, the proven lies, the coordinated attack campaigns are just convenient excuses? You think I enjoyed having to leave my home country because staying meant risking my life and the life of my children? What I think, Jimmy said, his voice now cold and calculated, is that you've made a very comfortable living playing the victim. You've monetized your grievances, turned your family drama into a Netflix series, and somehow convinced half the world that you're the real victim in a story where you abandoned your duties, split up a family, and then cashed in on the chaos you created. The accusation hung in the air like a challenge, and Meghan accepted it with the fury of someone who had reached their breaking point. What happened next would become the stuff of television legend. But first, the real fireworks. We're about to begin. Abandoned my duties. Meghan's voice cracked like a whip across the silent studio. Jimmy, let me tell you about duties. My duty was to support my husband, protect my family, and try to serve with dignity while being systematically destroyed by a machine that feeds on tearing women down. But apparently my real duty was supposed to be suffering in silence while they wrote lies about me every single day. Jimmy leaned forward, his eyes gleaming with the satisfaction of someone who knew they'd struck a nerve. Oh, please, you knew exactly what you were signing up for when you married into that family. You think you're the first person to deal with press scrutiny. You think you're the first royal spouse to face criticism. The difference is every other person in your position understood that service sometimes means sacrifice. But you decided the rules didn't apply to you. The rules. Meghan laughed. But there was no humor in it, only bitter fury. You mean the rules that said I had to smile while they published stories about me making children cry? The rules that said I couldn't defend myself when they accused me of being demanding and difficult for asking for basic human decency? The rules that said I had to pretend everything was fine while I was having suicidal thoughts because the pressure was literally killing me? The audience was completely captivated now, witnessing something they'd never seen before. Raw, unfiltered emotion from someone who usually maintained perfect composure. Jimmy, however, wasn't backing down. Suicidal thoughts, really? And yet, here you are making millions from tell-all interviews and Netflix deals. Funny how quickly those suicidal thoughts disappeared when there was money to be made from your soba story. The words hit Meghan like a physical slap. Her face went pale, then flushed red with rage. You did not just mock my mental health struggles. You did not just trivialize the darkest period of my life for a cheap laugh from your audience. I'm not mocking anything, Jimmy replied with fake innocence. I'm just pointing out the convenient timing. You claim you were so desperate, so broken, so victimized that you couldn't continue your royal duties, but somehow you found the strength to negotiate multi-million-dollar media deals and launch a lifestyle brand. It's almost like the victim narrative was just another performance. Meghan's hands were clenched into fists now, her whole body trembling with fury. Performance. You think my pain was a performance? You think watching my husband's family turn against us was a performance? You think receiving death threats against my unborn child was a performance? What I think, Jimmy said, his voice dripping with condescension, is that you're very good at making everything about you. Even tonight, instead of talking about whatever charitable work you're supposedly here to promote, we're once again hearing the same victim story we've heard 100 times before. It's like you only have one song, and frankly, we're all getting tired of hearing it. The audience was beginning to murmur uncomfortably. Some were clearly Team Meghan. Others seemed to be enjoying the brutal takedown. The tension in the room was palpable, electric, dangerous. One song. Meghan's voice rose to a near shout. Jimmy, do you know what it's like to have your own father sell stories about you to the tabloids? Do you know what it's like to have your privacy invaded so completely that they publish letters you wrote to your dying grandmother? Do you know what it's like to be called a liar when you speak your truth and then have that truth proven correct months later when the facts finally come out? Your truth, Jimmy repeated mockingly. I love that phrase, not the truth. Your truth. Because apparently reality is subjective now and everyone gets their own version of events. Here's my truth. You married a prince, got everything handed to you on a silver platter, and then threw a tantrum when you realized that privilege comes with responsibility. Handed to me. Meghan was on her feet now, pacing like a caged animal. I was a successful actress with my own career, my own money, my own life before I ever met Harry. I gave all of that up to serve. I gave up my career, my independence, my friends, my entire identity to try to fit into a system that was determined to reject me from day one. Successful actress, Jimmy snorted. You played a supporting character on a cable TV show that most people never heard of. Let's not rewrite history here. You were a working actress, sure, but you weren't exactly Meryl Streep. Marrying Harry was the best career move you ever made, and we all know it. The insult landed like a haymaker. Meghan's eyes blazed with fury, and when she spoke, her voice was deadly quiet. You know what, Jimmy? I've spent years trying to take the high road, trying to be dignified in the face of constant attacks. But you want to play dirty. Let's play dirty. You want to talk about career moves. Let's talk about yours. A failed comedian who got lucky with a late-night slot and now thinks he's some kind of political commentator. You sit behind that desk every night throwing stones at people who actually try to make a difference in the world while you contribute absolutely nothing except cheap laughs and manufactured outrage. Jimmy's smile faltered for the first time. Excuse me. Oh, did I hit a nerve? Meghan's voice was sugar SW sweet now, but her eyes were still. You dish it out, but you can't take it. You want to question my credentials, my success, my mental health, my motivations. Then let's question yours. What exactly have you accomplished besides reading jokes other people write for you and kissing up to celebrities who are more successful than you'll ever be? The audience was completely silent now, shocked by the complete breakdown of civility. Jimmy's face was red, his composure cracking. At least I don't have to marry into success, he shot back. At least I earned my place instead of finding a prince to rescue me from mediocrity. Rescue me? Meghan laughed harshly. Jimmy, I rescued myself every single time. When my father abandoned me, I rescued myself. When the media tried to destroy me, I rescued myself. When your precious royal institution threw me to the wolves, I rescued myself. I don't need a prince or a title or anyone's approval to know my worth. But apparently, you need a desk and a script and an audience to feel like you matter. Jimmy stood up too now. The interview completely off the rails. You want to talk about mattering. You matter so much that you had to flee to California and spend the last few years begging for relevance. You matter so much that you have to go on podcasts and give interviews just to remind people you exist. You matter so much that even your own family won't speak to you. My family. Meghan's voice was dangerous now. You mean the family that sold me out for tabloid money? Or the family that stood by and watched while I was being crucified in the press? Let me tell you something about family, Jimmy. Real family protects each other. Real family doesn't throw each other under the bus for profit or political points or cheap applause. Real family also doesn't abandon their duties and responsibilities when things get tough, Jimmy fired back. Real family doesn't drag private conversations into public interviews. Real family doesn't turn family disagreements into international incidents. You have no idea what you're talking about, Meghan snarled. You have no idea what it was like behind closed doors. You have no idea what conversations were had, what support was offered or denied, what promises were made and broken. You're talking about things you know nothing about based on tabloid reports and palace propaganda. The confrontation was reaching a fever pitch, and everyone in the studio could feel it. The cameras were still rolling, capturing every moment of this unprecedented meltdown. But something told everyone present that this was about to get much, much worse. Palace propaganda. Jimmy's voice was incredulous now. His professional mask completely slipped. You mean the same palace that bent over backwards to accommodate you? The same palace that changed centuries-old protocols to make you feel welcome? The same palace that spent millions on your wedding while you complained about the flowers not being exactly what you wanted? Meghan's eyes flashed with pure rage. Bent over backwards, Jimmy. They literally refused to protect me from racist attacks. They put out statements defending other family members within hours of negative stories. But when it came to me, suddenly they had a policy of never commenting. They threw me to the wolves and then acted surprised when I got eaten alive. Maybe, Jimmy said with a cruel smile. Just maybe the problem wasn't them. Maybe the problem was you. Maybe you were exactly as difficult and demanding as everyone said you were. Maybe you really did make people cry. Maybe you really were impossible to work with. Did you ever consider that? The accusation hung in the air like poison. Meghan's face went through a series of emotions. Shock, hurt, fury, and finally something that looked almost like defeat, but then her expression hardened into something terrifying. You know what, Jimmy? Her voice was deadly. Calm now. You've just proven everything I've been saying. You've just shown everyone watching exactly what I've been dealing with for years. You take tabloid gossip, you present it as fact, and you use it to tear down a woman who dared to speak her truth. You're not a journalist. You're not a comedian. You're just another bully with a platform. I'm a bully. Jimmy laughed harshly. I'm asking the questions that everyone else is too polite to ask. I'm saying what everyone else is thinking. You can't handle honest criticism, so you call it bullying. You can't handle accountability, so you call it racism. You can't handle the consequences of your own choices, so you blame everyone else. Honest criticism. Meghan's voice rose to a shout. You call mocking my mental health honest criticism. You call dismissing documented racism honest criticism. You call attacking my career, my family, my character honest criticism. This isn't criticism, Jimmy. This is character assassination, and you're doing it for ratings. At least I'm honest about what I'm doing, Jimmy shot back. Unlike you, who wraps every publicity stunt in the language of social justice and humanitarian work. You want to talk about using platforms. You've turned your personal grievances into a brand. You've monetized your victim status better than anyone in history. That was the final straw. Meghan's composure completely shattered. You want to see a victim, Jimmy. You want to see what happens when someone gets pushed too far. Fine. Let's talk about honesty. Let's talk about the real story. Let's talk about the phone calls that were recorded, the emails that were saved, the witnesses who saw what really happened behind closed doors. Jimmy's smile faltered. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the evidence, Jimmy. The evidence that's been sitting in lawyers' offices for years, waiting for the right moment. The evidence that proves every single thing I've said. The recordings of family members making racist comments. The emails showing how the palace coordinated negative stories about me. The testimonies from staff members who witnessed the abuse firsthand. The studio was dead silent. Even Jimmy seemed stunned by this revelation. You think you can ambush me on national television? Meghan continued, her voice gaining strength. You think you can attack my credibility, my character, my mental health, and I'll just take it? You think I came here unprepared, Jimmy? I've been preparing for this conversation for years. I've been waiting for someone to push me far enough to finally tell the whole truth. Jimmy tried to regain control. You're bluffing. If you had real evidence, you would have used it already. Would I? Meghan smiled now, but it wasn't pleasant. Or maybe I was waiting for the right moment. Maybe I was waiting for someone to be stupid enough to attack me this viciously on live television. Maybe I was waiting for someone to give me the perfect justification to release everything. The audience was riveted, sensing that they were witnessing something historic. Jimmy looked genuinely worried now. You want to know what's really funny, Jimmy? You've spent this entire interview proving my point. You've shown everyone exactly the kind of treatment I've been subjected to. You've demonstrated the cruelty, the dismissal, the complete lack of empathy that I've been dealing with for years. And you've done it all on camera in front of millions of people. Jimmy tried to interrupt, but Meghan was on a roll now. But here's what you don't understand, Jimmy. I'm not the same person who left the UK broken and defeated. I'm not the same person who was too scared to fight back. I've spent years healing, growing, finding my voice, and learning how to use it. And tonight, you've given me the perfect opportunity to show the world who I really am. Security. Jimmy suddenly called out, his voice cracking. I think we need to end this interview. Oh, now you want security. Meghan laughed. Now you want to end the interview. When you were attacking me, when you were mocking my mental health, when you were calling me a liar and fraud, everything was fine. But the moment I start fighting back, suddenly it's time to call security. 2 security guards appeared at the edge of the set, but they seemed unsure about what to do. The audience was completely captivated, many of them filming with their phones. This is exactly what I'm talking about, Meghan continued, her voice carrying across the silent studio. This is exactly how it works. A woman gets attacked, and when she defends herself, she's the problem. When she speaks up, she's difficult. When she fights back, she's dangerous. Well, guess what, Jimmy? You're right. I am dangerous. I'm dangerous to liars, to bullies, to anyone who thinks they can tear down women for sport. Get her out of here, Jimmy said to security. But his voice lacked conviction. I'm leaving, Meghan said, grabbing her purse. But not because you're kicking me out. I'm leaving because I've said what I came here to say. I'm leaving because I've shown everyone watching exactly what I've been dealing with. And I'm leaving because I have lawyers to call and evidence to release. She turned to face the audience directly, ignoring Jimmy completely. To everyone watching at home, thank you for witnessing this. Thank you for seeing the truth, and thank you for reminding me why I fight so hard for women who are facing the same kind of treatment I've endured. This is what it looks like when someone tries to silence a woman who refuses to be silenced. As she walked toward the exit, Jimmy called out desperately, "This isn't over." Meghan paused at the edge of the set and turned back one final time. "You're absolutely right, Jimmy. This isn't over. It's just beginning." And with that, she walked off the set, leaving behind a studio full of stunned faces and a host who finally understood that he'd picked a fight with the wrong person. The cameras kept rolling as Jimmy tried to regain his composure, but everyone knew that this interview would be remembered as the night that changed everything. The audience erupted into chaos. Some cheering, some booing, all of them realizing they'd just witnessed television history. And somewhere in the back of the studio, phones were already ringing as news outlets scrambled to cover the story that would dominate headlines for weeks to come. What did you think of this explosive confrontation? Do you believe Meghan really has the evidence she claims, or was it all an elaborate bluff to save face? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more incredible stories like this one. The truth always has a way of coming out.